Cirroc, let's talk about you for a minute, Mr. Cirroc Lofton. First of
All
all, thanks very much for joining us and lending your thoughts our way. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Thank you. Yeah.
Everybody at home, I don't need to tell you, you're probably watching this because it is Cirroc Lofton, but you know him as Jake Sisko on Deep Space Nine. He's also my co-host and buddy and partner on The Seventh Rule.
Oh.
We have a lot of fun together. He was also a star in the 90s show Hoop Life, right?
Yeah, Hoop Life was in 2000, but yeah.
That's practically the
90s.
90s. When I watched the episode, the clothes you guys were wearing still look like late 90s to me.
Oh, yeah, 90s clothes, that's for sure.
So I do want to ask you, like, people do run into this all the time as actors. There's kind of like that Star Trek curse where you played 7 years in Star Trek and then you go audition for something and people go, oh, no, I really like you. You did a great job, but, you're too recognizable as that character. You wouldn't work as this. Did you ever get into that kind of situation, or were you young enough on Star Trek to where you kind of could fly under the radar?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this Star Trek curse, when we were doing it. And I didn't think much about it, but I do think it did play some effect in my career afterwards. I mean, there are, for example, Star Trek is not really looked at as a black show, and therefore our audience is not necessarily considered as a black demographic. And when you're doing a show and you're looking for, and you're doing a black show and you want that demographic, you're less likely to pick somebody who has a fan base like mine because you're thinking, I'm not going to attract too many black viewers. And so that, I think, is the one way in which it affected my career after Star Trek. And I don't know if that's typical for other black Star Trek actors like LeVar or Michael Dorn, but I know that that's been kind of the experience for me. But I don't let that, I don't play into it too much. So I just go and continue to do what I can do. If it exists, it exists. It's nothing that I can prove in court. Otherwise, I'd be filing suit.
Yeah. That's a good point. When you started acting outside of Star Trek, whether it was at the same time, the 7 years during Star Trek or afterwards, did you ever find yourself like comparing it like, oh, well, when I'm on Star Trek, the food's way better, or you guys, your hours are crazy over here? I mean, did you ever feel like you were spoiled by Paramount and Star Trek, or maybe you went on other sets and you thought they were better, but did you ever have that kind of feelings or thoughts?
Yeah, I've had that feeling many times. Different sets are run differently. Sometimes the crew is scared of the cast and they, whisper and tiptoe around certain people. And, but I think the thing I was spoiled by the most is the love, the affection that I got from Avery Brooks. That was something that I wasn't able to duplicate anywhere else or find an even a close proximity to. So working with other actors, you kind of expect them to be that, as me being the younger person and working with other older actors and black actors, and you would expect them to kind of take them under your wing or kind of give you the guidance that somebody like Avery gave me. But I realized that was rare. As I started to work with other people, I started to realize that it's actually a closed, competitive thing as opposed to an open, generous thing, right? It's more like if you're looking for an agent or you're looking for representation in the black community, it's more closed. So people were less likely to point you in the direction of somebody to work with, and less likely to help you out because they think of it as competition. And so Avery was the opposite. He was generous with his everything, and specifically his knowledge, and gave me so much wisdom and information, and opened doors for whenever he could open the doors for me, show me, point me in the right direction whenever he could. And I didn't find that with other stars or other actors. That's a rarity, and that's what separates him in my book from so many other people that I've admired in the past. But once I got to know them, they were kind of a letdown because they were self-centered in their approach to life.
Yeah, they were self-sealing.
Yeah,
But no, but
Right,
that's something I hadn't thought about. That I don't know if you ever really mentioned that. I mean, you've definitely told many stories, and I've heard many stories from other people about how protective and fatherly Avery was to you. But I never realized that, like, if you spend 7 years with that, and then you go out into the big wide world, like, Avery kind of spoiled you by being so amazing, so gracious, so protective, so fatherly. You go to this other thing, and you're like, oh, you're playing my dad, you're playing my brother. Hey, you want to go to a ball game? They're like, what? No, man, we're just running lines, dude.
We're just acting here.
Yeah, we're just acting. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and that's the sad truth. And the other aspect of it is that Avery was so aware of the culture and so aware of the impact of what the work was to the culture. So he knew how important it was for him to get it right and to do it the way he wanted it done, because he knew the long lasting effects it would have on Black people in the future. And I don't think that kind of approach is done by other actors. Other actors are really somewhat oblivious to the impact of their work sometimes, or to the education of the background of what they're doing, right? So I could get a job and play Huey Newton as a Black Panther in a movie, but if I don't know what Black Panthers is about, if I don't know what they represent and stood for, then I'm not really fully able to bring it justice. If I'm just reading lines and I'm just trying to mimic somebody's voice or mannerisms, and I'm not seeing the historical context of what the significance of it is, or how it aligns with other things, then I'm kind of doing it a disservice. And I think that Avery was really good at knowing where historically things place, and the impact that the work has.
Speaking of impact, I did want to ask this last question about that. I know that you have been inundated for the last 25 years with people talking about how important what you and Avery did on Deep Space Nine was. The representation of a strong family unit, of a good father that was there for his son, of the affection that was there, the guidance, the strength, the love. I mean, it was just like this beautiful, amazing, wonderful thing to see. And even more so from, Black people who didn't get to see that very often. Less and less the farther back in time you go, and how much it mattered to them. And I know you hear that all the time. And, we hear that all the time, the stories of people saying, dude, you have no idea what you guys meant to me growing up. And I wanted to ask you, like, did you have any idea when you were acting how important that was? We know Avery must have, and it showed in his performance and how he treated you and how he treated the show, like how important he made sure that the show was. Did you have any idea about that? And if so, did Avery kind of guide you through it, or say, don't worry, just focus on me, or whatever it was that helped you through that?
Yeah, I really didn't have an idea. What I will say, though, is that much like this Atticus character in Lovecraft, I was a studious, kind of nerdy person, right? So I grew up being a good student, and sometimes even being ridiculed for being a good student. So my emphasis and focus was just on being good, being smart, doing well in school. Avery obviously had this whole worldly knowledge and this, much more information than I had at the time. So yeah, he did do a lot of the guidance as far as that, as far as me being aware of it. But I just want to put a few things in perspective. We were doing this in 91, 92. I think in 92 we started.
First episode, yeah.
Yeah, and this is before Tupac was famous, before Biggie Smalls made an album, before Jay-Z was famous, before Kobe played basketball. This is
before G Thing?
Before Ain't Nothing But a G Thing came out. This is like a long time ago. And so and like I mentioned earlier, we weren't in the lexicon of the black, shows.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the lexicon of science fiction shows, which kind of superseded just the small demographic of just black only. And so I think we may have gotten overlooked as far as the kind of message we were trying to lay out, right? We were trying to lay out this positive message for black people in the future, showing that they exist and they're still doing well and they're still being represented positively in the future. But maybe that message didn't go to the audience necessarily that we wanted to impact the most, right? Which was the black audience. So
right.
I feel like over time, as more black people have gotten into science fiction and Star Trek, the impact of the work has become more recognized, if not more significant.
It's definitely growing. Yeah. People are finally getting around to how great Deep Space Nine was, more and more and more and more. It's finally getting the recognition it deserves.
About time.
Yeah.
I mean, about time, yeah.
It took forever, man. Well, that's really awesome. Everybody at home, this guy talks this eloquently every single week on the Seventh Rule with me, except for when I derail him and start talking about dumb basketball stuff like Greg Oden. But
or what you call a cheese sandwich in France.
Oh yeah, a croque monsieur. Cirroc was accusing me of just saying that because he thought that I just wanted to say that word. Like you go to France and they say, "What would you like to eat, monsieur?" And you go, "I would like to eat your croque monsieur." You know.
Michael, I know you've had this for longer than I have. So God bless you, Michael. You're doing well. You still have some hair.
He's a patient man.
Yeah, you still got me. I couldn't deal with Ryan for much more. I started out low, so I'm doing good.
I'm going for the beard next. I'm coming after your beard, man. No, but everybody definitely check out Cirroc on the Seventh Rule with me. We have a great time. We have a lot of great guests. You will love it if you like Star Trek. If you don't, you may care less. But anyway, also check him out on social media. We'll include those links in the description box below. His sister Meron does amazing artwork that you can buy, shirts, mugs, all kinds of cool things. AbyssinianKiosk.com. We will also include that. Please check it out. Really cool African designs. Really good stuff. You'll love it. Just check it out. Oh, we should have worn an Abyssinian Kiosk shirt to talk about it. But anyway.
No, but I did bring this to bring
Nice.
our guy with us here today.
Aaron Eisenberg.
Aaron Eisenberg.
He's still with us.
Beautiful.
And watch some Deep Space Nine. Keep those residual checks flowing.
Yeah,
Right.
Keep watching, guys. We appreciate the love, and the fans have been so supportive and so amazing. I mean, you would think 25 years later that it would have not been a conversation piece anymore, but thanks to the fans and thanks for the love and the support of the franchise, it's still relevant, and I appreciate every one of you guys.
Mm-hmm. Boy, I really want to get an Abyssinian Kiosk shirt and show it, but I'm like, I feel like I'll be digging for too long, and you guys will be like, "We're still recording." So
where'd Ryan go?
Yeah, just imagine that I got the shirt and I showed it. It's really cool, especially
Whoa!
the Cisco Kid shirt. Check it out. You'll love it. We'll include the links. Please at least look at it so that you know what we're talking about.